Hello and welcome to Hot and Heavy, the Elaine Bennis podcast. I'm your host, Shivani Desai. Today I'll be talking about Season 8, Episode 17, The English Patient. Hello everyone, I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing all right. We've had a big week in the sense of my daughter's venture into high school. She's gotten her schedule, all this orientation information, where she's supposed to be. And I don't think she can go a full 7 minutes without saying, I'm so excited for high school, which is great. I'm so excited for her. I remember that excitement of entering high school. You just feel so grown up. And I don't know about you guys, but I always wanted to be older than I was when I was younger. And then the irony of that, right? When you're finally an adult, you're like, I wish I was younger. And it's really helped. Her excitement has helped me kind of distract myself that I have a child entering high school. She only has 4 more years of school left, 4 more years of her living in this house, probably. Okay, I need to change the subject. So anyway, that's been fun. It's been really fun to see how excited she is and everything that goes along with that. I'm excited too. It's a new school for the family. So, we get to know the building, the teachers, the faculty, and I'm a freshman mom. So where's my orientation? Another thing I'm super excited about. We are going to my favorite place in Colorado, Telluride, in a few days. And I'm just, I could not be more pumped. We're going to stay at this beautiful villa and there's a spa there. Mama likes a spa. I'm going to get some treatments. I'm just really excited. A perfect summer wind down. It's cooler in the mountains. It'll still be summer weather, but it won't be as oppressive as the weather has been here. We just went through a heat wave, I think, like most of the country. So we need that relief. And so I'm so excited to get to Telluride and do all of our Telluride stuff that we do. But I will focus right now on this episode because, spoiler alert, this is a top 5 episode for me when it comes to Elaine's storyline and JLD's performance. So let's get into it. The synopsis for The English Patient is as follows. Elaine's hatred of the English patient makes her unpopular and causes her boyfriend to break up with her. Jerry gets a challenge of physical strength from an 80-year-old man. Kramer gets stuck with Dominican immigrants instead of the Cuban cigars that he asked for. That's wrong. George is intrigued by a man who looks just like he does, who is dating a beautiful woman. This episode was written by Steve Coren. Okay, we start out in the subway, our cold open. Jerry and Elaine are riding the subway, and Jerry asks Elaine about the concession stand ad that they show before the movies. They've got the cartoon candies dancing and the milk duds playing the banjo. Oh, he's wailing on that banjo. Jerry is confused about the Raisinets. Oh, the sax player, Elaine says. Yeah, he's buying another box of Raisinets. Elaine doesn't understand. A box of Raisinets eating another box of Raisinets? It's perverse. She's like, no, he's not going to eat them. He's buying them for his Pepsi girlfriend. Well, Jerry doesn't like that either. Why is he dating a Pepsi? They're not having children. Elaine tries to rationalize it. They're musicians. Musicians, get a real job, Jerry says. My take on this scene, it's very Seinfeld. And what I mean by that is basically, it's stupid. It's a stupid conversation, but both parties are totally invested in it. Like, Elaine's not brushing him off and being like, why do you care about this? Which I think would be the tendency for a female character in a sitcom to sort of belittle this conversation. Oh, the dumb guy is bringing this up and I don't have time for this. But that's why Elaine is so different and Seinfeld is so different. Elaine's totally into this. It's all very funny to me. It makes me giggle. I'm also curious about that moment at the end of the scene where Elaine and the guy next to her sort of get eye contact. I wonder if he was a musician and he heard Jerry's comment about getting a real job. But anyway, I love that little moment. And I just think about it again from being an actor and thinking about like, oh, if I got this gig of being a background player on Seinfeld and you get to sit next to JLD and then you have this little moment, I wonder if it was pre-planned. I have so many questions, but they'll never get answered. It's fine. fine. But in my mind, this guy was hired to be a background player. He was placed next to JLD by the director, and they had a moment, and they kept it in. How fun. And also, Jerry really is a musician career, much less of a job than a comedian. Throwing stones, Jerry. Okay, next we're in Monk's. George is at the counter, and he tells the waitress he's had everything on the menu. So, surprise me. She exits, and a woman walks up to George, mistaking him for her boyfriend. She's absolutely stunning, and she apologizes, says, "I'm sorry, I'm meeting my boyfriend here. He looks just like you." George is, to put it mildly, shocked, like me. She says sorry and walks away. George is just left behind, kind of baffled, like me. But how? The waitress returns with a halibut omelet. Surprised? Yes, I am, George says. The actress in this scene is Chelsea Noble. She plays Danielle. And I'm sure many of you recognize her from Growing Pains, and she actually went on to marry her co-star from Growing Pains, Kirk Cameron. They have been married now for 33 years and have 6 children. Now, she's mostly appeared in a lot of films with her husband, and they're kind of Christian-based sci-fi, I think. I remember one time my brother telling me that a client of his recommended this movie to him one time and like gave him the DVD or let him borrow it and was like so insistent, like, "Oh my God, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen." And my brother enjoys movies and he's like, "All right, cool." So it turned out it was a straight to video film made by Kirk Cameron. God, I can't remember the name of it now. I could probably look it up on IMDb, but I don't feel like it. Something about flames or fire. But anyway, my brother was like, "I'm a Hindu man, and this guy, I don't know if is he trying to convert me?" Like it was all Christian based, and the storyline was, I think, about like a trouble in marriage and seeking out Christ and all this stuff. And fine if that's what that client was into, but yeah, my brother was like, "I watched it. It was fine." But I was kind of like, what's this guy's angle giving me this movie? But anyway, back to Chelsea Noble and her portrayal of Danielle. I think she's perfect. I think she's so good. I mean, she is, first of all, insanely gorgeous, like so gorgeous, it's unfair. So casting her to be interested in George is exactly what it appears to be. Like, how does this happen? And I like how she plays this throughout. She's a little light. She's not too, I think sometimes when women are cast as this very beautiful woman, it's probably in the character description. She's insanely gorgeous and interested in George. They can play up that part of them, but she's just effortless. Like she's like, yeah, okay, well, I've already got the gorgeous thing down. I just have to kind of stand here and be gorgeous. And she just plays it very earnestly. And I really like her performance. I think she does a really good job. She's a pleasure to watch. All right, next we are in Jerry's apartment. Jerry is packing to visit his parents in Florida, and Kramer is unloading a bag of shirts he got from Crazy Shirts. They were having a sale. He got Jerry a number 1 dad shirt. "Oh, and it's a medium. Perfect," Jerry says. Now, okay, it was really on this watch for the podcast that I was like, I had pause here. I'm like, did he buy the number 1 dad shirt for Jerry to give to Morty, or did he buy it for Jerry? I was just kind of confused by that this time. I always thought before this watch that he was giving it to Jerry, and Jerry's like, "What? Number 1 dad, and it's a medium?" But I'm like, Jerry looks like a medium. So I'm thinking, hey, I got you this for you to take to Florida for Morty. So anyway, it was just my own little personal confusion. Maybe all of you were like, "No, idiot, we got it the first time." So George enters, and he's there to take Jerry to the airport. They're at that level in their friendship. No problem there. Kramer asks Jerry if his cigar guy can drop off some Cubans in Florida. He's like, "Kramer, I'm going to be busy helping my parents move." "Oh, come on, help a brother out." So Jerry agrees, and Kramer on his way out says, "I owe you one." He holds up the number 1 dad shirt. "We're even," he says, and Kramer exits. George tells Jerry about what happened at the coffee shop and that he still can't believe how gorgeous a woman as she would go out with someone that looks like him. This. Maybe he has money, Jerry says, which is, of course, the first thing anyone would think. He says, well, maybe he doesn't. Maybe there's just a slight difference, like a mustache or a monocle or a top hat. Who's she dating, Mr. Peanut? And George feels pretty defensive about Mr. Peanut. You could do a lot worse than him. All right, next we're at the movie theater. Elaine and her boyfriend Blaine are in line to get tickets, and he asks what she wants to see. And she suggests Sack Lunch. And then he's like, well, what about The English Patient? It's up for all those awards. No, she doesn't really know about that. She's more intrigued by the poster of Sack Lunch. And Blaine's like, it's a family in a brown paper bag. Yeah, but don't you want to know how they got in there? She's so into it. The ticket attendant puts up a sign that says, Sack Lunch is sold out. Oh, she's so disappointed. Sold out. Blaine orders 2 tickets for The English Patient. And Elaine is still invested in Sack Lunch. So do you think it's a family shrunken down, or is it just a huge sack? My take on this scene, I'm going to repeat myself. This is one of my favorite Elaine episodes of the series. And this scene in particular is so funny. So we meet her boyfriend, Blaine, who is so great. He's played by Todd Jeffries. That childlike wonder Elaine has for Sack Lunch, it's perfect. And I honestly think this is what happens when you hang out with juvenile people like Jerry, George, and Kramer. Like, I think her maturity level has been compromised for years now, and it's all coming to head in this sort of Sack Lunch versus The English Patient showdown, She's just kind of been beaten down as far as her taste level. And hey, I mean, to support Elaine here, it did sell out, and The English Patient did not. So it has to be pretty good. I did want to bring this up. It was pointed out as kind of a goof on the IMDb page that a few episodes ago, Elaine was only interested in artsy dramas when she was renting her movies. And now she's interested in silly comedies. I mean, she hated Weekend at Bernie's too. She liked all of Vincent's picks, artsy and very heavy. But I'm going to say, I do not think this is a character inaccuracy. I really think she was scarred by the Vincent incident, or the Vincident, if you will. All right, next we are in Monk's. George enters, and that beautiful woman, Danielle, is paying at the register. And he reintroduces himself. He says, remember, I look like Neil. He asks if Neil is there, and she says, no, he got held up at work. Oh, he wanted to see him since, we look so much alike. Well, you don't look exactly like him, she says. Oh, all right. The thrill is gone. Sort of. George is like, of course not. Yeah, you're a little taller. George just stares at her in disbelief. And you look like you're in better shape than Neil. Do you work out? Oh my gosh. It's like just George's dream. Not only is she dating a guy who looks like George, but sort of a worse version of George. George says he doesn't want to be too forward, but wonders if he could have Neil's number. You can tell Danielle is getting ready to get hit on, but then is very surprised by the fact that, no, he wants Neil's number. All right, next we are at the movie theater. Now Elaine and Blaine are exiting. They've just seen the movie, and she hated it. Oh, that movie stunk. Blaine's like, I kind of liked it. She looks at him very sternly. No, you didn't. Elaine's friends, Carol, Gail, and Lisa come out, and they all just saw The English Patient as well. Didn't you just love it? No, Elaine says. How could you not love that movie? How about it sucked? Carol says, oh, that Ray fiend. I would give up my firstborn for him. Elaine says under her breath, I'm getting the short end of that stick. My take, the fantastic JLD moments continue. I love her voice, how reprimanding it is to Blaine about him liking the movie. Like, no, you didn't. Like, it's offending her that he liked it. Like, she's so pissed. Oh, gosh. And what a perfect choice to bring back these obnoxious friends and put them on Blaine's side. It just kind of adds to everything against Elaine, which I love. Oh, God. And then the delivery of how about it sucked. It's one of my favorite, and it's often quoted by me when I think something has sucked. That look on her face. Again, this like snotty kid type quality she has in this episode. I love snotty juvenile Elaine. It's another shade we're seeing, and I love it. Yeah, there's something about sucked that just gets me every time. A little goof here. So the ugly baby of Carol's, which I think what Elaine is referencing to, the one that they saw in the Hamptons, it was not her firstborn. That was her second child. The firstborn was the one Kramer said, look like Lyndon Johnson, which I guess could still apply. But I think we're meant to think like, oh, yeah, that Hamptons baby, that was so ugly. But anyway, it's just a little goof that matters to no one except me and other ultra nerdy fans of Seinfeld. All right, next we're in Florida. Morty is showing Jerry Del Boca Vista's new physical fitness room. It's all state of the art. Anything you want. Stairmaster? What? Never mind. Morty's wearing the #1 dad shirt. He says that Helen found it. He tells Jerry it's the most wonderful and thoughtful thing he's ever done for him. You know, I bought you a Cadillac. Twice. Izzy Mandelbaum walks in and Morty tells Jerry about him. He's 80 but strong as an ox. Watch this. Izzy lifts a barbell. You couldn't do that, Morty says to Jerry. I could. I choose not to. Another man walks in. He asks who's with Morty. It's my son from New York. He thinks he can lift more than Izzy. I didn't say that, Jerry says, which he didn't. Morty's just starting shit here. And then the guy tells Izzy, this guy thinks he can lift more than you. Oh, your kid's pretty funny. You should be a comedian. Actually, I am, Jerry says. That's not so funny. So they go back and forth a little bit with this trash talking. Izzy wants Jerry to pump it with the barbell. Jerry lifts it with ease and he says, step aside, String Bean. And he goes for the heavier bar and throws his back out. Call an ambulance. I think there's already one here for Mrs. Glickman. There's room for one more. All right, next at the movie theater, Elaine is there solo, ordering a ticket for sack lunch. It's good, right? She asks, and the attendant nods enthusiastically. Elaine's friends come out of the theater. Oh, what are you guys doing here? We just saw The English Patient again. It's even better the second time. Well, they make it longer? Blaine comes out. Turns out he's with them. Elaine's surprised. I thought you said you were busy. Well, he confesses he can't be with someone who doesn't like The English Patient. It's just a stupid movie. See, this is what I'm talking about, he says to Carol. They lock arms with Blaine and they say, come on, let's go. And he says to her, enjoy sack lunch, and walks away. Elaine just calls after them, I will. My take, I love this scene too. Everything from Elaine being so excited to see sack lunch all by herself. She doesn't care. It's just the best. And, here we see Blaine's complete shift to her friend's side. And God, when he turns to them and says, see, this is what I'm talking about. This sort of disapproving looks they're giving her. It's just so good. It's so stupid, but it's so good. And then the enjoy sack lunch. I will. Often quoted in this house. But anyway, I can't really say enough good things about this. The storyline, the scene, everything about it makes me so happy. All right, next we're back in Florida. Helen is reprimanding Jerry for causing Izzy to hurt himself. Says he should have been more mature. He's 80. Morty and Helen go to bed and Jerry's like, all right, 7:30, got the place to myself. There's a knock at the door and the Cubans have arrived, except they're humans and not cigars. Next, we're in Jerry's apartment. A shirtless Kramer is cooking in Jerry's place when his phone rings. It's Jerry calling to yell at him about the Cubans being real people and not cigars. Well, Kramer thought it was obvious because Cuban cigars are illegal in this country. Morty walks in to get some medicine. He asks Jerry, who are they? Cuban cigar rollers? Don't tell your mother. Morty exits. And Jerry can hear a bubbling sound. What is that? Are you making your spaghetti sauce? Yeah, hot and spicy. You're not wearing a shirt, are you? Yes, I am. What color is it? Damn it. All right, next we're in Danielle's building. Danielle and George are returning from going out. Apparently she bought him dinner and he says, oh, you didn't have to do that. She's like, oh, I wanted to give you Neil's phone number in person. She's clearly smitten with George. She tells him she doesn't have to be up early and has a great breakfast place. But he's so focused on Neil. Does Neil enjoy a big breakfast? Why don't you come in and we'll talk about it? He says he wants to get home in case Neil calls. She gives him kind of a googly-eyed look and leans in for a goodnight kiss, and he just walks away. All right, next we're at Monk's. Elaine is at the counter, and the place is empty. Waitress asks if she's had a rough night. Elaine tells her, my boyfriend dumped me, and my friends, who I don't even like, won't talk to me because I don't like that stupid English Patient movie. The waitress is surprised. Really? I thought it was pretty good. Oh, please. Good? What was good about it? I mean, Elaine had really had a problem with those sex scenes. There was nothing she could use. Well, she's insulted the waitress now, too. Well, I liked it. And she exits to go into the kitchen. Hey, you forgot my piece of pie. Hello? Well, no one's coming back. So she yells, sex in a tub, that doesn't work. My take, so we're moving the story along here. We see the impact this stupid movie has had on her life. And this sort of establishes why she tries to keep it to herself with J. Peterman a little bit later. Everyone she is told pretty much hates her and ends up ditching her because she hates the movie, including this waitress. And oh my gosh, give me something I can use in reference to the sex scenes. What a brilliant thing to give to a female character in a sitcom. Just bravo, Steve Coren. I love that so much. Give me something I can use. And I also enjoy the sex in the tub line. Like, she's really justifying this. Like, it's not me. They're showing inaccurate stuff in The English Patient. It all just works so beautifully, and I laugh every time. Okay, next we are at the Mandelbaum condo. Jerry and Morty are visiting the injured Izzy, and Morty tells Jerry that they own this big condo from having the Magic Pan restaurants. It's all crepe money. There's crepe money? Izzy asks what they're doing there, and Jerry apologizes for how he hurt himself. Izzy notices and is very bothered by Morty's #1 dad shirt. You think you're the #1 dad? And Morty says it's a gift from my son. Well, Izzy thinks that they're in cahoots, that Jerry put him out of commission so that Morty can strut around in his #1 shirt. It's go time, he says, and he wants to show them who #1 is. He stands up and we hear a crack. My back! I can't move! Call an ambulance! Oh, there's one a couple doors down. Next, we're in Jerry's apartment. Jerry is very perplexed that George would turn down staying with Danielle for the night because some guy might call. Not some guy, Neil. He must find out how he got a girl like Danielle. And Jerry points out to George the obvious. You've got Danielle. Forget about Neil. You've out-Neiled him. And then this hits George. I'm Neil. How did I do that? Well, I'm not sure, but you better keep it up. Well, George is excited. He says, I'm going to meet Danielle. There's a new Neil in town. And he exits. The phone rings. It's Helen and Morty. They're calling to see if Jerry went to see Izzy at the back specialist. He says, I just walked in. And Helen's really getting to him. You have to see him. Ma. Morty tells Helen to lay off. And she says that #1 shirt has gone right to his head. I mean, Morty loves it. He says, #1, signing off. Kramer enters and he's panicked. He just picked up the Cubans at the bus stop and it turns out they're Dominicans. His investors think that they're getting real Cubans and the whole deal will be off if they find out. And Jerry really doesn't understand what the difference is. He's like, you don't understand. Once you've had real Cubans, you can't have anything else. I mean, the Cubans have a texture, quality, an intoxicating aroma. These guys don't have it. Well, I thought they smelled pretty nice, Jerry says. Well, your palate's unrefined. Then we have a is to, are not, am to, are not argument for a little bit. Okay, next we are in Peterman's office. They've just finished a meeting, and as people are getting up to leave, J. Peterman mentions how he saw The English Patient and he thought it was extraordinary. Dugan agrees. Oh, it ravished me. Peterman asks Elaine if she's seen it, and knowing the consequences she's already faced with Blaine and her friends, she opts to say she hasn't seen it. So I couldn't tell you whether I liked it or whether it really sucked. J. Peterman cannot believe it. He tells her to drop everything. We're seeing it right now. My take, the delivery of the word sucked by JLD, it just gets me every time. I feel like she could do a masterclass on this. I would take a Julia Louis-Dreyfus taught class on how to really make a meal out of the word sucked because she does it so well. And I love that her attempt to avoid the wrath of English Patient lovers backfires and now she has to go see it again. Just a perfect way to heighten this plot. Okay, so I thought this would be a good opportunity in the episode to talk about what is my personal English Patient? What is the film, and I'm gonna spread this out a little bit more to TV shows as well. What is the thing that everyone loves and you just don't get it? You not only do you not get it, but you actually think it's terrible. You think it sucked. So I have a few. Before I get into there are actually 2 television shows right now that I think, what the fuck are people talking about? But I want to go back to having the actual experience of seeing The English Patient. I was in college at the time. And so back in college at Michigan State, I lived on the honors floor. And the guys on the honors floor were, of course, extremely intelligent, but they were also kind of pretentious. A lot of them, they were really artsy fartsy, and they were great guys. But every now and then I would just feel like they were a little condescending with what they liked, and especially with music and films and all that stuff. So anyway, there was so much hype around The English Patient, and I went to see it. And just like Elaine, I did not understand what the hell. I thought it was boring. I was not into it at all. I couldn't understand. What is everyone talking about? I definitely didn't say it sucked, but I think I was just all right, I guess I just don't get it. Anyway, all the dudes on the honors floor were just this is the most brilliant movie. I mean, they could not stop talking about just the brilliance of it. Then they all had crushes on Kristen Scott Thomas. I mean, I remember one of the guys actually had an English Patient poster in his dorm room. Yeah, this was the floor I lived on. There was no Sandra Bullock or Carmen Electra posters. It was The English Patient. So I have memories of totally being on Elaine's side when The English Patient was in theaters. Okay, so back to what is my English Patient now? And now I'm going to get some heat from this. I can tell. I already know I will. But Succession. I don't fucking understand how this show is revered as one of the best shows. And I will say, I think it sucks. I hated the characters. Every fucking episode is the same episode. It's just... everyone makes the same expressions. The plot is the same. Everyone hates the same people and yells the same thing at everyone. The amount of fuck off, fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. I don't know how many times they say it in an episode. It's ridiculous. And it's such lazy writing. I don't know. The way I'd be it's a shitty show wrapped in fancy HBO packaging. That's what I think. I think that just the built-in hype of it being an HBO show, I don't know, it just tricked people into saying oh, this is how the show is brilliant. Oh my God, it's so good. It's not good. It's terrible. Nothing happens. There's barely any movement in the plot. None of the characters evolve. None of the plots really go anywhere. I know people right now are what the hell are you talking about? But Succession, not a fan. Another show, and again, this is a huge show right now. People absolutely love it. It's The Bear. The Bear. I'm actually almost done with season 3. At this point, I'm sort of hate watching it, which was also the reason I kept watching Succession. I watched the whole thing. I binged it because I was maybe it gets better. Maybe I'm really not enjoying it, but maybe I just need to keep watching it. I don't know why I do this to myself. I waste so much of my time watching these shows that I know I don't like from episode 3. Anyway, The Bear, I didn't hate it at first. I definitely thought it was very well done. And, I still will say the actors are fantastic, except for the fucking guys who play all the Fack brothers. Get them out of there. I think my blood pressure goes up every time they're on screen. They are so awful and they're not funny. They're supposed to be the comic relief and they're just not. I'm sorry. I'm boring the people who don't know about The Bear. At any rate, those are my English patients at the moment. I couldn't really think of a film that I think sucks while everyone else likes it. Because a lot of times, because I enjoy such a wide range of things, I can understand even if I don't like it, I can see why other people like a movie. So I don't really have a good example of that. But these two shows, Succession and The Bear, I'm just sitting here going, what am I missing? I don't think I'm missing anything. And I don't think I'm being too harsh. I just the fundamental things I like about shows. These shows, they either ignore it or they just... I don't know. Maybe it's just a new approach that I'm not used to, but at any rate, I do not recommend those shows. But it seems like everyone else fucking loves them. So maybe, again, the cheese stands alone. Maybe I'm missing something. All right, but let's not get so negative. That's the negative portion of this episode. Let's move on. Now we're in the hospital. Jerry is visiting Izzy, and he's wrapping it up. He's like, oh, well, this is the best back specialist in the city, and if there's anything else I can do, please don't hesitate to try and find my number. Such a great line. As Jerry is walking out, Izzy tells him to wait. He shows him a shirt that says World's Greatest Dad, and he says that's higher than number 1. And Jerry doesn't give a shit. Then Izzy's son enters to visit his dad, and well, he looks pretty old. Jerry's like, "That's your son? I got married in high school," Izzy says. The son is pretty mad at Jerry for putting his dad in the hospital, and he tells him to pick on someone his own age. And Jerry jokes, "Sure, you got any kids?" Uh-oh, he's triggered another go time. The son challenges Jerry to pick out anything in the room to lift over his head. And Jerry isn't interested, but then Izzy picks the TV. So the son goes over, tries to pick it up, blows out his back. "Call an ambulance. We're already in a hospital." Next, we're at Earl Hafler's office. This is the investor in the Cuban cigar business that Kramer is starting. So Kramer is there to make the deal, and he lets the Cubans in. And eventually, Earl figures out that they're Dominicans and not Cubans, calls the deal off. Next, we're in Monk's. Danielle and George are at a booth, and Danielle tells him how Neil is pretty upset that I broke up with him for you. She tells him that, well, he wants to get together with me tomorrow for coffee. Well, George can do better. Move in with me. Beats the hell out of coffee. Next, we're at the movie theater. Jay Peterman and Elaine are there, and the English Patient is playing. Elaine isn't even watching the screen. She's throwing raisinets up in the air, trying to catch them in her mouth. One goes flying behind her, and she bends down to pick it up, disrupting all the people. And I guess she eats it off the floor. Meanwhile, Peterman is like in tears. He says, "I thought I knew what love really was." "Yep," she says. This is a short scene, but we understand how incredibly bored and annoyed Elaine is in this theater. Also, side note, I'm pretty sure JLD is very pregnant in this episode, and she's bending over that seat. It's pretty impressive. All right, next we're in Monk's. Jerry can't believe he asked Danielle to move in with him, and he's like, "I got to stay one step ahead of Neil." He's chugging some Pepto. What if it's Neil Armstrong? Well, then I'm going to Mars. What if it's Neil Diamond? Oh, shut up, Jerry. Well, Jerry's got to get back to the hospital and tells George how he got into it with the son, and now he's laid up. How old's the son? I think he's the same age as the father. Kramer enters tentatively and sits next to Jerry. He starts sort of stuttering and motioning behind him. "Are you cold?" "No." He asks Jerry, "Is that them?" referring to the back corner booth. And sure enough, the Dominicans are there in that booth. And Kramer says since the investors pulled out of the deal, he doesn't have any work for them. And he also taught them about Cuba, Marxism, the workers' revolution, the fashion, and they really took to it. We hear one of them pound on the table, and Jerry's like, "Wow, they're really angry about something." Kramer's nervous. When there's no work, the people get restless. And then they come after El Presidente, pointing to himself. Next, we're in the hospital. Jerry visits the son and the father, and they're going back and forth. Jerry's trying to convince them that he's not trying to challenge them with any macho head games. "I just want to state for the record, I think both of you are better than me." And that seems to satisfy them. Another man walks in, and it's Izzy's dad. "My boys, my dad, my grandpa." He wonders what happened to his grandson. He says, "Well, I tried to lift that TV." So the old guy starts walking towards it. "Oh, this old thing? Oh, God. It's go time," Jerry says, and we hear a crack and a groan. We cut to all three of them laid up. "Why didn't anyone tell me? It was bolted down." I just like the way he says bolted down. Then they chant their name, "Mandelbaum, Mandelbaum, Mandelbaum." They're all mad at Jerry. Well, he's got to go. "Oh, sure, put us all in the hospital and no one's around to roll the crepes at our restaurant." "You just need someone to roll them?" Jerry asks. "Yeah," Izzy says. So Jerry says, "I think I can help you out." So he goes to leave, but then the oldest Mandelbaum says he can't see the TV. Jerry goes over, easily lifts the TV and puts it in the middle. "You think you're better than us." All right, next we're at the movie theater. The English Patient is still going, and Elaine has her head in her hands, fully tortured at this point. Peterman says he hopes she's noticing the clothes because he can't keep his eyes off the passion. She just snaps. She cannot take it anymore. "It's too long. Quit telling your stupid story about the stupid desert and die already. Die!" She gets shushed by everyone. "Elaine, you don't like the movie?" "I hate it!" Everyone shushes her again. "Oh, go to hell!" she yells at an old lady next to Peterman. "Oh, why didn't you say so in the first place?" Peterman says. "You're fired." "Great, I'll wait for you outside." And Elaine leaves. My take, this is the pinnacle here. Elaine snapping so hard is what we've been waiting for, and it's just done so well, both in writing and in JLD's performance. The way she screams, "I hate it!" Oh, Peak JLD. Peak JLD. Any of you familiar with Veep knows that JLD can really play a tantrum in a very genius way and in a variety of genius ways, honestly. And there's just something about her yelling in that old lady's face to go to hell. It's so great. And it got me thinking, old ladies are really treated so shitty in this series. You got the shut up, you old bag. Yeah, move along, Betty. Berating Ruthie Cohen. I mean, and now this. Poor old ladies. All right, next we're at the Magic Pan restaurant. Jerry and Elaine are there, and she's telling him that the only way she could keep her job at Peterman was to agree to go to the Tunisian desert. Well, that's where they filmed the movie, she says. It's supposed to inspire me. Well, that doesn't sound so bad, Jerry says. I have to live in a cave. Jerry is so amused. Oh. Kramer comes over. He's so excited. The Dominicans are happy with their crepe rolling job. It's just a cigar made out of Bisquick, hey, Guillermo? Danielle is at another table with Neil. She's apologizing to him, saying, she's very happy with George. Let's just eat our crepes. All of a sudden, we see people getting sprayed in the face with the hot crepe fillings. My face! And one of the people who gets sprayed is Neil. Jerry's wondering why this is happening, and Kramer figures out that the guys are rolling them too tight. Well, that's why you got to have real Cubans. My take on this scene, we find out Elaine's fate here. We kind of get closure to her plot. She's got to go to the Tunisian desert, and it's just so Jerry to be amused by her cave-dwelling assignment. He knows she won't be able to handle that, and laughing at her is, just the nature of their relationship. All right, next we're in a hospital. We see Neil in bed. His face is all bandaged up. We can only see his eyes and lips. George enters. Where's Neil? He looks over. This is him? Yeah, that blueberry crepe burned him pretty badly. George finds a cane, and it's Neil's. I knew it, he says. Well, we meet at last. I admire your skills, Mr. Peanut. Turns to Danielle and he says we should go, and he has a key made for her. She tells him, I can't move in with you now. I'm taking Neil to a burn clinic in England. No, George can't lose. He says, marry me. I'll burn myself. I'll burn my parents. She apologizes and exits. As George is walking toward the door, Neil motions to him. He says, I win. And then George walks out, but not without pulling out the IV from Neil's bag. That was apparently ad-libbed by Jason Alexander. The tag in this episode, Elaine is on a plane to Tunisia. An announcement comes over the intercom and says that the onboard movie is... Elaine is bracing herself to hear the English Patient, but turns out it's Sack Lunch. Yes, she says. She's so happy. This is shaping up. But then the Dominicans, all in the #1 dad shirts, hijack the plane to Cuba. And turn off that movie, they say. Oh, nuts. My take, I'm just going to comment on the tag. It's great. We get to start the episode and end the episode with Elaine. And I think the tag is so funny. She's more upset about Sack Lunch being shut off than the hijacking. So funny. So great. Also, the #1 dads shirts, they make me giggle. I'm sure it was just one of those ways Kramer was trying to appease their rage about no work. We didn't see a scene about it, but that's what I'm going with. Anyway, really funny ending to the episode. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break, and I will see you on the other side.
I just don't know what to do anymore.
Neither do I. I didn't sign up for this. I thought things were going to be different.
Oh, come on. You knew who I was when we got together.
And you knew me too. You knew I wanted more than this life.
In an all-new episode of Couples Therapy, Dr. Orna takes on a couple unlike any couple she's seen before. And she's seen a lot. Open marriages, thruples, uglies with hotties. But until these two danced into her office, she thought she could help just about any relationship. In a special 3-hour event, Couples Therapy, Raisinette, and Pepsi, we will see this fraught pair try and save their relationship and figure out where everything went wrong.
When I first met him, oh my God, he was just that perfect combination, like I knew he was good for me, but he was also coated in this sweetness that may be a bit dangerous. I guess I like that.
Oh, Pepsi was the hottest girl at the theater. Are you kidding me? I didn't pursue anything for a while because, well, Popcorn had the biggest crush on her. But after he and Juji Fruits got together, I went for it.
After a blissful couple of years, things started to crumble. Raisinette and Pepsi kept secrets about their wants, desires, and infidelity. The concession stand is like high school, okay? And it's a lot of pressure, especially when you're I'll just say it, the it couple.
Don't blame the concession stand.
I'm not. I'm just saying.
He was my best friend, Pepsi. I taught him how to play the banjo. The only reason Milk Duds is in the band is because of me. Oh, and he's such a liar. He always said he preferred Coke.
I had a moment of weakness. How long are you going to punish me? Dr. Orna also discovered that their sex life had suffered along with everything else. In a grueling session, Raisinette is forced to admit something he never thought he could say out loud. Go on. She needs to hear this, Raisinette. Look at her and say it to her directly. I'm not even here.
Pepsi, I've been having trouble with our sex life because, well, you've gone flat.
Oh my God. Be sure to tune in to Couples Therapy, Raisinette, and Pepsi this fall on Paramount Plus. Even though they are candy and a soft drink, you'll be able to see yourself in their pain. Love is love after all.
Wow, Doc, I think this is helping. I feel like I have a brand new chocolate coating. Thank you so much.
And we're back. Okay, so there was a deleted scene for this episode. Elaine and Peterman are in the theater. Apparently it's 10 minutes after the credits have rolled. And he says he wants to see it again for her to take notes on the clothes so that they can knock them off. And then she starts crying, just fully bawling. And Peterman's confused. He's like looking at the screen. It's just a celebrity word scramble. She's like, no, I just know what's coming. And then he's trying to guess the celebrity word scramble. And it's Steven Spielberg, and he says something totally different. Anyway, so this explains, because some people on the IMDb Goofs page pointed out how that first time we see Jay Peterman and Elaine in the theater versus the second time, they're surrounded by different people. So I think when we see Elaine snap, that's actually the second viewing, like in a row of the movie, which explains why she snaps the way she does. So so this was a deleted scene where we establish, oh, okay, they're going to see it again minutes after they saw it the first time. I think it's fine without it, honestly. I love JLD, but it's just like the crying is a little bit over the top. I think she would have snapped at that point, but she kept it going. She's just like, she pulls off the crying as, oh, I just know what's coming. You know, this movie's so powerful. In the notes about nothing, there's deleted dialogue at the theater after seeing The English Patient. Where Elaine says to Blaine, she goes, Blaine, it went on forever. I could have cut an hour out of it with the machete and you wouldn't have missed a thing. So that's just, of course, to reiterate what she hated about the movie. And now it's time for Greg's sack lunch. What? Sack lunch? Yes, it is the namesake episode. How special. We're finally here. Every week, our most dedicated contributor, Greg, he sends us a sack full of his lunch. A sack full of his lunch. A sack full of his thoughts on the episode. And so for this week, here are Greg's thoughts. His overall thoughts. He says, my namesake episode. This is an episode that I only remembered bits and pieces of, so it was nice to have this rewatch. A lot of funny stuff happening here, and Elaine's plot, though somewhat simple, is relatable nonetheless, and she gets quite a bit of comedy, especially with Jay Peterman. Totally agree, Greg. And bits and pieces, huh? Wow. This is, like I said, this is like a top 5 episode for me, so I know it very well. Next in Greg's sack are his favorite scenes and Elaine moments. He says, I love how in line for the theater, Elaine seems so tickled by the sack lunch poster. A few episodes ago, she was enamored by Vincent's pics, which surely sack lunch would be more of a Jean pic. I love how she says afterward to her girlfriends, how about it sucked? Fun fact, I have never seen The English Patient because of this specific episode. How funny. Yes, I mean, we like the same things here. Yeah, just how tickled she is. I mean, she's just staring at this poster. It really got her, really hooked her in. And you made the same observation that I pointed out from the goofs where, hey, shouldn't she really want to see The English Patient? I mean, I think it's totally up there with the pain and the yearning. An old woman experiences pain and yearning. And in The English Patient, a man is really burned and there's a lot of yearning, I think, especially in that tub. And that's hilarious, Greg, that this episode deterred you from actually seeing The English Patient. I will say I didn't get to it, but I was like, I need to watch The English Patient in preparation for this episode, but it did not happen. But that doesn't mean I might not watch it maybe in the next couple of weeks. And I can just do a little retrofit commentary about it. I can be like, hey guys, I finally got around to it. Do I agree with Elaine? How about it sucked? I really do want it to suck so that I can say it and agree with Elaine. Next, Greg says, Elaine in the theater with Jay Peterman is her best part of this episode. The physical comedy here is top notch as she wriggles around so uncomfortably. How bad is this movie? And when she screams, I hate it, and then accepts being fired because of it, we see how over it she is. I mean, yeah, you can't display better how deeply she hates this movie. She can't. It's literally torture for her. And yeah, it all comes out in that scene for sure. Next in Greg's sack is his scene swap idea. He says, Kramer's story, yet again, is the most disposable. Everything with the Cubans is just ridiculous. I'd rather just have more for Elaine to do besides go to the movie theater 6 times in 1 week. Also, it would have been nice to tie George in somewhere. There's very little crossover for anyone's story here. Agreed. I will talk about this more in my final notes, but I kind of disagree. I really like the way they've constructed Elaine's plot for this episode. I kind of don't want there to be a cross-contamination, as weird as that sounds, because I think I've said so many times on this podcast how I love when everyone's stories intermingle and the dovetailing and all that good stuff. But I hate the Kramer and Jerry storyline, spoiler to what I'm going to say later, but I don't mind George's. I like George's, in fact. I think that it's very fascinating, but to entertain what you're saying here, Greg, even though I'm like, keep it separate. I like Elaine's plot as is. Maybe George and Danielle go to The English Patient and he loves it and she hates it, and then he's turned off by her. There could have been some kind of a crossover there, maybe. Next in Greg's sack, I find his extra thoughts. He says, Chelsea Noble, who plays Danielle, is Kirk Cameron's wife in real life, and I remember her vividly from her time on Growing Pains. This is the only other time I've seen her in something, and she does a good job. Yes, she's way out of George's league, but I love how straight-faced she says, you're in better shape than Neil. Do you work out? I know, I'm telling you, she really kills it in this episode. I think she's perfectly cast, and I mentioned it earlier, but yeah, I think she's just kind of a dedicated wife and mother. I think she's a trad wife, if you want to call it that. But I agree with you, Greg. She kills it here. She's so good. And I think it is because she plays it so earnestly. Greg goes on to say, Lloyd Bridges died not long after this episode aired, as I recall, and man, was he excellent here. What a legend. Okay, well, it's not to take anything away from Lloyd Bridges. Of course he is a legend. He's fine, I guess, here. I'm just not a fan of the Mandelbaums. I can't stand it. Just it's a slog for me to get through those scenes. I think maybe it's the same way you feel about Jay Peterman, Greg, but I am just not a fan. Next, Greg says, Morty wearing the tight #1 dad shirt because he's so proud of it just tickles me. This shirt will never leave my body. How sweet is he? I know, it is very, very sweet. The big smile on his face when he's like, #1, signing off. It's very, very cute. I agree. And lastly, Greg says, Dabney Coleman is mentioned as the star of Sack Lunch. Dabney just passed away in real life, so technically I'm adding him to the list of actors from Seinfeld who Shivani's curse has killed. God damn it, Greg. I had nothing to do with Dabney. I have nothing to do with any of these deaths. Okay, how dare you? I do not agree. Dabney Coleman was just mentioned. He did not appear in the show, so I call BS on all of it, but I call BS on Dabney Coleman being part of my my podcast curse. Well, Greg, thank you for your thoughts, except that last one. We always love them. And now it's time to close Greg's sack lunch. Or should I say, did you enjoy sack lunch? I did! Okay, so my favorite Elaine moments, when she says, I hate it! The I hate it is just so passionate. It's so forceful. It's wonderful. The way her head moves and that expression on her face, all perfect. I can't say anything else. And then a close second is what I've said before. How about it sucked? JLD saying sucked gets me every time. My final notes for the episode. I imagine JLD reading this at the table read and thinking, finally, I get to stretch these comedy muscles. She gets so many funny moments, and we really get to enjoy so much of why JLD is a top comedic talent. She's so fantastic in this episode. Like I mentioned in the last episode, when a storyline is so focused, it works so much better. It's nothing too complicated. It's just one thing. Elaine hates the English patient and keeps getting punished for that. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'm trying to keep that in mind as a writer. Just like, hey, know the want of your character. Keep heightening that want. You don't have to keep piling more things onto the want. You just can heighten what that core thing is to get a really good story. I think Succession and The Bear needs to, take that lesson. Ooh, burn. This is a top episode for me. JLD gets to shine, and I never get sick of watching her hear everything from her boyfriend, and then bringing back her annoying friends who she doesn't even like. It makes for just such a substantial and enjoyable plot for JLD. Now, usually I would have wanted some more Benestanza, maybe more involvement with Jerry or Kramer. Like I say, like the magic that all four of them have together usually works so well. But I think the way it is fine. I can't find a reason for Jerry, George, and Kramer to get too involved here. I think it's actually good that they're separate from this plot because we really get to focus in on Blaine, Peterman, her friends. It's kind of a one-off, but I think it really works that Elaine is totally separate from the guys. And I have to say, I cannot stand the Mandelbaum plot. Izzy bugs me. I have great respect for Lloyd Bridges. He's a legendary actor. He was, but good God, I cannot. It's the worst part of this episode to me. And Kramer's plot is stupid too. But like I said, I don't want Jerry or Kramer in the Elaine plot. They just needed something different. I cannot stand Mandelbaum. I don't think the whole cigar stuff is funny. But anyway, Elaine's storyline was perfect, and that's all I care about. And I think that's all I can say about The English Patient. Please follow the podcast on social media. On Instagram, it's at Hot Heavy Elaine. On TikTok, at Elaine Benes Podcast. And if you'd like to email me any comments or thoughts, please do at elainepodcast@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.